Um, so I've been a supporter of Tearfund since my college days, and I've had the privilege of working there for over 20 years now. I work in the IT team, and I'm UK based, so I don't get out there to see what's happening in the ground. On the ground, so to speak, I've had a couple of times where I've visited, but pretty much mainly I'm based. I'm now sort of working from home, but we do get a lot of opportunities to hear stories, to meet people, to link up, which has been a wonderful privilege over the years to have that involvement. And it is a great organisation for giving access to its staff, to the work it's doing, and keeping people sort of involved with that. Just want to thank you so much for your support for Tearfund. Thank you for being one of the nearly 400 churches that took part in the big quiz night this year. That up there. So what does Tearfund do? Well, Tearfund does lots of different things. Does disaster emergency response, providing clean water and sanitation, work related to gender-based violence, peace building, self-help groups. The list goes on and on, what it's involved in. There is one thing that we get particularly excited about and that we want to scale up dramatically, and this is community transformation, and particularly community transformation involving the local church. Very much what we are reading about tonight, about faith in action and about local churches living out that faith in action. Tearfund is passionate about the local church and the way in which the Lord can work through the local church to change lives and transform communities. Since 2006, 47 million lives have been transformed through Tearfund's community projects, including our church and community transformation model. Tearfund recently produced an impact report based on input from more than 8,000 people across 4 African countries. These reveal many positive outcomes for people who'd participated in our church and community transformation programs, one being a dramatic increase in those who were now hopeful about their future. Through church and community transformation, we're helping people living in extreme poverty to realize that they are not without hope. They have purpose, significance, skills, and resources that they can use to lift themselves out of poverty. This realization comes through Bible studies run by the local church. As people realize that they have more than what they thought they did, and that they have been blessed by God beyond their recognition, they are filled with hope and can begin to plot their own way out of poverty alongside their neighbours. Hopefully, we can now watch a video of a Burundi trip that...
Hi, my name's Glenn, and I recently had the privilege of going to Burundi to see the work that Tearfund is doing with local churches there. On our first day, we took a trip into the mountains to visit a village called Mubira. It's only 20 kilometres from where we were staying, but it took us over an hour to get there because the road was so rough and bumpy. When we arrived, the whole community was there to welcome us, and we were greeted by Pastor Obed. He described to us what life was like in the community before and the various challenges they faced. Tearfund's Bible study training changed all that. The church members started to realise that everything God had already given them could then be used to help the whole community. The main challenge that Mubira faced was the lack of access to healthcare. The nearest health centre was 11 kilometres away down that bumpy road that I described at the beginning. Can you imagine having a medical emergency or being pregnant, being in labour and having to sit on the back of a motorbike going down a road like that? The church was inspired by one part of the Bible studies that Tearfund uses as part of the training. Nehemiah 2 verses 10 to 20, when Nehemiah decides to rebuild the walls of Jerusalem. They realised that when they come together as a community, as a church, that they could pool their resources. They raised £30,000 to be able to build their own community health centre right there in the middle of Mabira. When I was there, they had just finished building the health centre and had piped water up from the other side of the mountain so that it had running water. And I've heard that 6 months on, they're planning to put solar panels on the roof to provide electricity. Pastor Obed's church has doubled in size and he has to build a new one. In fact, they're having to plant new churches in that area because people are coming to faith. They showed us with pride their community health centre that they had built with their own hands. Mabira is just one example of how Tearfund is equipping churches to transform their communities. We simply couldn't do it without the support of churches like yours. We're so grateful for all of your support and prayers. Thank you.
As that video shows, Tearfund does not do the work for or on behalf of the community. Tearfund provides training for the church leaders on how to run the church and community transformation Bible studies. The church then runs the studies for anyone in the community who wishes to attend. As the groups meet to study the Bible, individuals discover their purpose, significance, skills, resources, and their potential as people created by a loving and powerful God. When this happens, answers to the community's biggest challenges begin to be found and implemented. In our video from Burundi, the community was able to raise over £30,000 on their own in order to build their own health centre. They then, on their own, managed to pipe water from the bottom of the hill to the top so that the health centre had running water. Because the inspiration of the project came from experiencing church and community transformation Bible studies, the result was that the church grew as well, requiring bigger buildings and more churches to be planted. This is why Tearfund is passionate about the local church and its ability to end extreme poverty. Meeting Jesus is only the beginning of the journey. A local church provides the community we all need to make the most of that journey, personally and together. I'd like us now to watch another short video which sort of reinforces the role that Tearfund plays in this.
This is Burundi in Africa. And this is Cecile, who's walking to fetch water for her family.
Oya sivyo.
Oh, okay. Well, then what's in the bucket?
Iki ni igikorwa canje.
This is the school that your donations built, brick by...
Sijya kandi.
Oh, then who built it?
Abavyeyi bacu.
Of course. Your generous donation.
Oya.
Nitwe twavyiyubakiye.
This is the centre of the community that your donations... No, look, it's not, is it? Okay, what did Tearfund do?
Yakoze ibintu biruta inyubako. Biciye mu ishengero. Tearfund yarafashije guhugura wese.
Oh, well, that's much more helpful.
Nibaza ko yamaze kubitahura.
Cecile lives in Burundi and has gone, so in that short film we watched, it features Cecile, who's a 20-year-old wife and mother of a 1-year-old child. She lives in Burundi and has gone through the Bible study training at a local church. She and her husband are farmers, and this training opened their eyes to the opportunities within and around them. Cecile's story helps to illustrate how poverty is often about perspective and what you believe is to be true rather than the reality of what is true when you can change your perspective to God's perspective. In Romans 12:2, we're encouraged to renew our minds because what we think reveals what we believe is to be true. So if we change what we think, we can change what we do. Cecile, featured in this video, has experienced what a change in thinking can mean for her future sustainability. At the current time, Tearfund is partnering with more than 38,000 churches in over 50 countries around the world. Our vision is to roll out church and community transformation to 250,000 churches by 2030. And I hope that you'll be able to join us on that journey and continue to support and engage. And we very much value your prayer support as we would seek to envision churches in these different countries and facilitate that God's work in lives for them to be changed. A way to keep up to date with things that Tearfund's doing is to sign up for Tear Times, which is like a magazine that's produced 3 times a year. That comes with like a daily prayer guide. It's really helpful thing to get. Thanks so much for listening. I don't know if people have any questions on either Tearfund or Sunbridge that they might want to ask.